Hello and welcome to Hoffman Naturopathic, the podcast where I discuss all things mental health, mind, body medicine, and bringing the spiritual to the everyday. If you want to know what it's like to live with full integration of mind, body, and spirit, you are in the right place, and I'm so glad you're here. Hi friends, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. I hope that you're well today. Whatever day it is when you're listening, whatever time it is, I hope that you are enjoying yourself and maybe have had some fun recently. Today I'm talking about self-love, which, to be completely honest, I have a lot of thoughts about, I have a lot of feelings about, and this might be a little bit premature in my sharing, because it does feel like a really unwieldy topic, but I think it is a pretty unwieldy topic. And I came to this topic of self-love because as I was putting together actionable intuition, it came into my awareness that if you are not in a place where you love and value yourself, you're not in a place to value and trust your intuitive knowing. So I thought that this would be a really nice sort of companion piece to the course, Actionable Intuition, which I'm going to tell you about briefly. Actionable Intuition is such a great course. It is hot off the presses, just published last week, super new, super exciting. And what it's really designed for is to marry logic and embodied intuitive knowing in a way that is tangible, that is practical, and that is reliable. So this is not intuitive knowing of like, oh, I think maybe this thing, or I think maybe that thing, or sometimes I know and sometimes I don't know. This is all about, I, at any given moment, can get super clear and really in touch with intuitively what I know to be true. Whether it's like where to go to eat for lunch, or whether it's where to move across the country, or whether it's whether or not to go back to school, any decision, anything you're coming up with, any experience you're having, it's designed to support you in getting really clear and really attuned with yourself, and really practicing making those intuitive decisions, even as you use your logic alongside of that. So I'm very excited about it. There's some science, there are a bunch of practices that you can do in there, to really get this dialed in. So check out the show notes. I'll have a link if you're interested in some more information. So I'd love for you to have a look at that if it sounds good to you. But coming back to this topic of self-love, I think it's really charged for me because self-care doesn't make sense to me. On the surface, it makes sense to me of like, yeah, I need to take care of myself because if I don't, one, I will feel badly, two, my body will not work as well, three, my mind will not work as well, and four, like I will just feel crummy. So I understand like logistically and pragmatically why self-care is important. Less so like bath bombs and whatever, like that doesn't jive with me so much. So self-love falls sort of in that category. And I think it's important and different from self-care. These are nuances of maybe the same thing or maybe different sides of a coin. I'm not really sure. But self-love is really important because it allows for autonomy. So I don't know if you've noticed, but in leadership right now in the United States, there are some people who are in charge who are not emotionally competent. They're not emotionally autonomous. So people who need constant validation, constant attention. And this is a really extreme example. And I think it makes a really good point of that emotional neediness and that inability to look in the mirror and say like, I'm okay, I am good, I am worthy, I've got this. And of course, you know, if we're talking personality disorders and that kind of thing, like this person I'm referring to is not on the spectrum of, quote, normal necessarily, and there may well be some other things going on there. But I just say this to make a very extreme example of what it might look like to not be emotionally self-sufficient. And self-love makes that space of self-sufficiency. And I think the other thing that happens, maybe not, and it may not look like emotional autonomy and emotional self-sufficiency in the same way, but what self-love does is it grants you the permission to live the life that you want to be living. So, by which I mean to say that if you don't love yourself, if you don't think that you're worthy, it's really easy, super easy, like shockingly easy to get sucked into a life experience, to get sucked into a job or a marriage or, insert big decision here that you don't necessarily want. But because you don't value yourself and you don't value your own opinions and your own wants, and you're not able to honor those. And so you get sucked into these other experiences, and then, people have wasted isn't the right word, but people have spent their lives having these experiences that they never really wanted and that they don't enjoy and that they maybe resent or are angry about, all these kinds of things. So self-love gives you the space and gives you the courage also to stand up and say, nope, I don't want that. Like, I value myself. I value my opinions. I value what my heart is telling me. And I know that to be true. And so I'm going to make a decision that's really in line with what I know, because I value that and I trust that. And so this is where this bleeds into intuitive knowing and intuition, because intuition comes from our bodies. And if we're not in a space to hear that message and trust that message, you cannot access your intuition at all. So that's how those two things go together. The other thing about not loving yourself is that it puts you in a position to be spending a lot of energy trying to fill that void, potentially, and trying to get that validation from other people. And so that can take a lot of time. That can take a lot of energy. It can take a lot of thought. It can take a lot of doing and planning, and how do I get this person to see me? Or like, how do I get them to say this to me? Or how do I grab their attention? And quite frankly, you have better things to be doing. You have a life to be living. You have, passions and interests and things that light you up and make you excited, that are so much more worthy of your time and your talents. So that's the other thing about not loving yourself, is being in that position of being dependent on someone else, possibly beholden to someone else to give you that external validation. But the truth is that no one can give you validation but yourself. No matter what comes to you from outside channels, no matter if it's positive feedback, no matter if it's negative feedback, none of that compares to what you're saying to yourself. And none of that compares to what you think about yourself. So you can be getting, this comes up on online stuff, and you hear celebrities say this, or maybe you haven't, but I think that this is true, that, if you're reading through, say they do a post or something on social media and they're reading through comments, which, don't do, but if they're reading through the comments and there may be some negative things that just are like, whatever, it doesn't matter because I know it's not true. But there may be some negative comments that's like, ooh, that one stings a little. And that comes through because of the person's own opinion of themselves. So the negative comments that they see, and they're like, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, they don't resonate with that. They know that that's not true of themselves. They feel secure in those areas, so it doesn't even enter their consciousness. If, however, you read something and you're like, oh, that stings. Like, what is that there that's causing that to sting? Like, what thought is it? What belief of yourself is it that's tapping into? And so this can be a really good way to sort of gauge where you're at and your opinions of yourself is, if I hear negative feedback from someone, does it sting? Like, and how and why does that sting? Like, why does that hurt? Why does that feel the way that it feels? So yeah. And I've lost my train of thought, friends. Sorry about that. I have a bunch of notes written out here, like sitting on the table spread out, and they're all out of order because I've been trying to record this for like 5 times, but this is going to be it. This is the one I'm publishing, so hang with me. I did want to also note that a lot of times what can come up is that people think that self-love is arrogance, and I want to dispel that notion. Self-love is not, I am entitled to this, and you have to give it to me because I deserve it, and I get to have it. And, the Veruca Salt version of, I want it now. And that's not where I'm going with this. What I'm talking about when I refer to self-love is this sense of, I, like everyone else on this planet, am a human being. I am neither superior nor inferior to anyone. I can claim the space that I need. I get to have all of the experiences in this life that everyone else gets to have just by virtue of my humanity. And I trust myself, and I know that if I'm grounded in compassion and kindness and doing the best I can and making improvements where I can and accepting myself as I am in any given moment on any given day, and if while doing all those things, I practice engaging in activities that really make my heart sing, I will be effective and I will have some fun. So this is much more the space that I'm coming from. It's much more the space of, I may have some work to do. I know I have some work to do. I know that, I have some qualities that are not so attractive. I know I have some qualities that are stunningly gorgeous. And all of that is okay because all of that makes me who I am. And having a consistent effort to err on the side of those qualities that are a little bit kinder, a little bit gentler maybe, a little bit more compassionate, just the best that there is of yourself, not ignoring those negative qualities, but knowing like, it's okay, I'm a human, like I make mistakes, I do my best. And being at the same time really honest with yourself of, am I doing my best? Like, is there something else I should be doing there? Do I need to go apologize to that person? Like, did I say something I shouldn't have? And being able to do really honest self-assessment and say like, yeah, I do. I think I shouldn't have said that. That was wrong of me. Let me go apologize and make this right. Or, let me go say something to this person and make it right. So that should be hopefully a clearer differentiation of entitlement and arrogance as opposed to the self-love that I am referring to. And the other thing is that there is feedback sometimes that I have not received, but I hear from others. So I just thought that I would address it in case this is you, and in case there are obligations and people in your life that may say this to you, or if you just need to make peace with it for yourself, that, oh, this is like really selfish, and that seems like a lot of time and energy to invest in, like what? Like that doesn't do anything. You're just wasting your time. It doesn't have any impact. Like this is just selfish and dumb. And to that I say, absolutely not. Nope. It's a hard no from me. So, and the reason that it's not is because the more people that are able to love themselves and make honest appraisals of themselves and really tap in and do the work that they know in their heart they're on this planet to do, the more of us that can do this, the better our world gets. This just is. And the reason for that is that I really think this is true, is regardless of your spiritual background or religious background, we're all here for something. And we all, this is true because we all have things that we're really excited about. We all have interests. We all have passions. We all are curious about something even. If you've listened to Elizabeth Gilbert, she has a really good speech about not necessarily following your passion, but just following your curiosity. What are you curious about? And we have these signals from our minds and from our bodies too of, no, this is the way. So everything that makes us feel easier, everything that makes us feel happy, everything that brings us some enthusiasm, everything that we're interested in, these are all signals for why we're here. And it doesn't have to be grand and world-changing. It could be, it feels really good to put my kids' lunch together for school. Or it could be, it feels really good to bake a cake. I'm really focused on food and I want to get into cake decorating, so cakes are on my mind right now. But you get the idea. It could really be anything. Like, it feels really good to go for a run right now, or it feels really good to take a nap, or it feels really good to read about space, or it feels really good to learn how to run a business, or I'm super curious about marketing. Like, how does that work? Or, I'd like to meet this type of person, or I wonder how this job is done, or these are all things that we can follow and learn about and do things with. And I sort of lost my train of thought there because I was thinking about marketing. But, at any rate, self-love gives you the space and the permission to follow up on those things. Because if you can say to yourself, I love myself, I am good, I am worthy, I get to have the experiences that I want to have that are available to every other human on this planet by virtue of my existence, that, from that space, anything can happen, anything. And from that space, you give yourself permission inherently to be like, oh, I'm really curious about learning how to plant tulips. And then you can go learn how to plant tulips. And then, you have a lovely garden, and then your neighborhood is beautiful. And then other people around you are happier because you have such beautiful tulips. And I'm going off on this, but I think that you get the picture. The other thing that happens is that collaborations can happen. The more of us that live in this way, the more of us that value ourselves and value our inherent worth, that are emotionally mature and autonomous and able to live our own lives independently, certainly in community and in concert with others, but not needing that validation from anyone else and really being in line with our mind and body and spirit, then the more of us that do that, the more collaborations can happen, and just the better it gets. I don't know how else to say this, but the better and the better and the better it gets, and the more room there is for more people to do the same thing. And so the expansion and the possibility just gets so huge, like massive, unimaginably, like behemoth, just so many good things are available to us the more people that live in this way, which is why I'm recording this podcast again, and why I'm really passionate about intuition, because I really have this vision of the world where so many people, if not all people, are living fully integrated mind, body, and spirit, where so many people, if not everyone, know that they are good and worthy and lovable, and from that space make decisions in line with who they are, who they're meant to be, with their golden hearts, with the purity of everything that they are. And so our world just gets better and better and better. So yes. All right. I think I've ranted a little bit long enough. But I did want to come back because if you have been following me, if you know me, you know that I am super pragmatic. I want to know, like, what do I do? What's the benefit of this? What's the tangible benefit of this thing? Or how do I even do it to see any tangible benefit? And in terms of tangible benefit, I think I've covered that somewhat. But in terms of how to do it, I will tell you a couple things, and I will first let you know that if you want to really dive into this, if you want to go deep and get into, like, how do I actually practice self-love? What does that look like for me? Because it looks differently for you than it does for me. I guarantee it. But if you really want to dive into that, I am so excited. I'm going to be running Self-Love September. And so this is just a way to dive in every day for the entire 30 days of September. I'm going to be sending out an email, and it's going to have some really juicy tidbits of, like, maybe a quote and a practice. I think that's how it's going to be. I haven't written them all yet, but having, like, a quote and a practice and just something to think about and reflect on. Maybe some journal prompts, maybe like some looking in the mirror and saying some things to yourself kind of work. all kinds of things to really practice loving yourself in a way that is grounded, in a way that makes sense for you, in a way that's safe, in a way that's really accessible. So if that sounds of interest to you and you really want to dive in and go deep and just get into it in September, I'll put a link in the show notes, and it will take you to a page where you can sign up for that email. And that's I just want everyone to have this. So it just is something that I'm doing. So I hope that you enjoy it if you're into that. But if that sounds like too much and you just want to kind of dip your toes in maybe a little bit first, or maybe you're super excited about that, but it's not starting until Sunday, so you want to get going right away, I have 2 practices that you can do starting now. And the first is something that I learned from Deepak Chopra, and you can check out, he did a podcast with Oprah, Super Soul Sunday, and I don't even remember what this was, but maybe I'll see if I can find a link to this too in the show notes, because I've listened to this podcast so many times, and every time I hear it, it just gives me more help and more information. I find it super valuable. But Deepak Chopra recommends, and he says he teaches this to children, but I think that there are so many adults who need this just as much, if not more. So he says you stand in the mirror and you look at yourself and you say to yourself, I am second to no one. I am immune to criticism, and I am fearless. And he says you look for the shine in your eye. And I've done this, friends, and it is true, and it is so, I think I say life-changing too much, but it has been really transformative and really helpful for me to jumpstart this self-love practice, and really helpful for me to boost my sense of, I don't know if worthiness is the right word, but my competence, my sense of ability, my sense of no one is doing things the way that I want to be doing them, and that's okay, because I have this vision for a reason and I can make it happen. So that is one that I recommend off the bat. The other one is journaling. I am a writer. I journal most days, if not every day. And so with that bias in mind, what I recommend, 1, be gentle with yourself. This can be really hard work. It can be really challenging. And even part of the self-love work can just be saying to yourself, this is really hard, and it's okay. And set a timer. If this does feel really challenging for you, set a timer for a minute. That's it. 60 seconds, and then I'm done. I'm out. I'm tapping out. Totally fine. If it feels less scary, but you're still a bit like, I don't know, set a timer for 5 minutes. And if you're just ready to dive into it, just go until you're done. Just, block out a couple hours and just dive in and go deep. So however makes the best sense for you, totally fine. And I'll also say that whether you want to write this on a piece of paper that you burn or that you shred or that you throw away, or if you have a really beautiful journal that you keep, if you really love having a sacred journal space, however that looks for you, great. It's all good. It's all fine. So what I recommend is, this is a stream of consciousness, no editing process. So just whatever's in your brain is going to come out through your hand on the paper, through your pen or pencil. I recommend a pen because pencils get dull, and maybe you're okay with that. I don't like having dull pencils. I'm OCD about it. But if you get yourself settled in and sit down, and across the top of your paper, just write, how do I think of myself and what do I think of myself? And then you spend your time answering that question. Again, stream of consciousness, no editing. There are no wrong answers. There are no right answers. This is simply an exercise to help you become aware of what's that self-talk that you're giving yourself. Some of us have a good sense of how we think of ourselves, and some of us don't. And wherever you are on that spectrum, this exercise can be illuminating. It can give you so much information and such a good place to start from. So there's that. And this is also part 1 of this process. So again, depending on your comfort level with doing this kind of work, that could just be like day 1, you have 1 minute, I'm writing, I'm going to answer this question, and I'm not going to look at it for 24 hours, 48 hours, however long you need. Totally fine. Again, if you're the person who has set out, like, I'm going to take 2 hours, I'm going to dive in, I'm going to get this done, I'm going to, like, go deep and get it. Also fine, like, just move right into section 2. And then, of course, wherever you are along that spectrum, again, everything is good. You're not going to do this wrong. You are fine. So, once you've done your stream of consciousness and answering that question of how you think of yourself and how you perceive yourself, take out a highlighter and highlight the ones that are positive. Highlight the ones that are like, oh, I really enjoy reading. I'm a really great gardener. I am a really good cook. I love to stay organized. I check my mail every day. I brush my teeth every day. I make my bed in the morning. I sleep really well. Like, whatever it is that strikes you as like, oh yeah, I'm really good at that. Or I really enjoy this about myself. Or I think that this is a really good asset that I have. Highlight it. The reason for this is that the more we put our attention on those things that are positive, the more positive things we have to put our attention on. And so there's an expression in Chinese medicine, and I'm sure that it exists elsewhere, this idea that qi follows thought. So it's basically just saying that what you focus on gets bigger. So that's that piece of it. So part 1, we did writing. Part 2, we did highlighting the positive aspects. And part 3, you are going to read the ones that you wrote, the things that you wrote that are not so positive, the things that you wrote that are not complimentary. And part 3A is going to be take a deep breath. You're good. You're fine. Just because you think these things of yourself, 1, doesn't mean they're true, and 2, doesn't make you less worthy. So, okay, part 3A. Part 3B is going to be that you're going to take out another piece of paper or turn the page in your notebook. And you're going to write a counter statement that is positive. So, I have an example here that I just made up. And so say, my water bottle. So say you have a lot of things on your paper, and one of the things is, I am fat and lazy, I don't eat healthy food, and I hate cooking. Okay, fine. No judgment there. It's what you wrote, it's what you think, it's fine. It's a place to start. We have some awareness now. So from that place, how do you turn it around? How do you make it positive? How do you make it maybe even just neutral? So the example that I wrote, I turned that around by saying, my body responds well to its environment. My body is wise and it knows what it's doing. I enjoy resting and I'm really fortunate to be able to do so. I really do enjoy the food that I eat. I have fun eating it. And I don't know how to cook. I never learned how to cook. Maybe that's something that I can learn to do. So that's just one example. And I will say that this was advice that was given to me in a course that I took about money mindset. But advice that was given to me was basically, because I was coming up with counter exercises that were I didn't believe them. And so it's not useful if you don't believe it, or not as useful if you don't believe it. So what we're doing with this work is we're shifting our mindsets from, negative to less negative to neutral to positive. And it can be really hard to make a jump from I legit hate myself to I love myself. That's hard to do. But if you can go from I hate myself to okay, I don't want to hate myself. I want to learn how to not hate myself. To I'm really curious how I can start to love myself. To okay, it seems possible that I might be able to learn how to love myself. To okay, if I just do these practices, if I just do my mirror work, I think I'm going to be able to learn how to love myself. So you see, and then you keep going up the ladder. So you see, it's very, very small, very reasonable, very doable steps. And so I hope that that's helpful. These are just a couple of ideas. Sorry, I'm moving papers around. Sorry if that's loud. But just a couple of ideas to get you started. And again, if you're interested, please head over. I'll drop a link in the show notes and you can sign up for Self-Love September, which is going to be great. Whether you're going back to school or your kids are going back to school or you are just in a career and have no association with school anymore, but just want to dive into this work, I think it's going to be really great and super fun, and I'm really excited to share it with you. So, all right, friends, thanks for joining me today. Take care.